And do 10 habits no one sees from Nepalese Sherpas to get lean without counting calories. The alarm vibrated at 6:30 a.m. and Sarah's hand reached out to silence it before her eyes even opened. 7 hours in bed. The sleep tracker on her phone would confirm it. 7 hours, 23 minutes of recorded sleep. So why did her body feel like it had been awake all night? She sat up slowly, her shoulders tight, her neck stiff. The bedroom was warm, almost stuffy. The blackout curtains kept the room dark, even though sunrise had already happened somewhere beyond the sealed windows. She reached for her phone. Notifications glowed, emails, calendar reminders. A fitness app nudging her about yesterday's missed workout. She scrolled without thinking, her thumb moving on autopilot. The mirror in the bathroom told the story her sleep tracker couldn't. Dark circles, puffiness around her eyes, a tightness in her face that hadn't been there 5 years ago. She was 37. She looked older. Sarah had tried everything. The keto diet lasted 3 months before the constant hunger broke her. The intermittent fasting app told her when to eat, but her body seemed to scream the opposite. The gym membership cost $60 a month, and she used it twice in November. Her doctor had looked at her recent blood work with concern. Fasting glucose creeping up, cholesterol higher than last year, liver enzymes showing the stress of a body working too hard to stay balanced. You need to move more. Eat less, the doctor had said, not unkindly. Track your calories. Get serious about portion control. Sarah had nodded. She'd heard it before. She'd done it before. And every time the same cycle. Restriction, willpower, hunger, exhaustion, failure, shame. On her kitchen counter, next to the protein shake mixer and the half-empty bag of granola, sat a small copper bowl. It had arrived 3 days ago, wrapped in brown paper, sent by her friend Maya, who was doing research in Nepal. The note inside had been brief. Thought of you when I saw this. The Sherpa woman I'm staying with uses it every morning for tsampa. She's 72 and walks up mountains that would destroy me. Maybe there's something here you'd find interesting. Sarah had set the bowl aside, intending to thank Maya later, but this morning, waiting for her coffee to brew, she picked it up. It was heavier than it looked, the copper warm even in the cool kitchen. She turned it in her hands, noticing the small dents and wear patterns. This bowl had been used daily for years. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maya. Did you get the bowl? There's a documentary about Sherpa porters I think you'd love. Sending link. That evening, after another day of staring at spreadsheets under fluorescent office lights, after another commute stuck in traffic, after another dinner eaten quickly while standing at the counter checking emails, Sarah opened the link. The documentary opened on a landscape so different from her cluttered apartment that it felt like watching another planet. Mountains rising into thin air, cold, clear mornings, and people, Sherpa porters carrying loads that seemed impossible, moving steadily up stone paths carved into cliffs, their breathing deep and rhythmic, their bodies lean and strong. One scene stopped her, a woman, not much older than Sarah, sitting on a wooden floor in a simple home. Steam rose from a copper bowl, identical to the one now sitting on Sarah's counter. The woman ate slowly, deliberately, her face calm. No phone, no television. Just the bowl, the food, the quiet morning light. The narrator's voice explained, Sherpa communities live between 9,000 and 15,000 feet above sea level. They consume high-calorie foods, butter tea, tsampa with ghee, hearty stews, yet obesity is virtually unknown. They don't count calories, they don't go to gyms, and yet their bodies remain lean, strong, and metabolically resilient well into old age. Sarah paused the video. She looked at the copper bowl on her counter, then at her own reflection in the dark window. Exhausted, bloated, defeated. These people ate butter, they ate carbs. They didn't track macros or obsess over willpower, and they were thriving. What were they doing that she wasn't? The question felt like a door opening. She didn't know yet. that the answer wasn't in the food itself, or in some secret supplement, or in a new diet plan. The answer was in 10 invisible habits, habits so woven into the fabric of Sherpa daily life that they didn't even have names for them. Habits that reshaped metabolism, nervous system, sleep, and the relationship between body and environment. Habits no one had ever told her to count. If you've ever felt tired even after a full night of sleep, or frustrated with diets that don't last, tell us in the comments which part of this story feels familiar, and stay with us for the next chapters. Sarah spent the next 3 nights watching everything she could find about Sherpa culture, Himalayan communities, and the science of altitude adaptation. The videos played on her laptop while she ate microwaved leftovers, the copper bowl sitting nearby like a silent witness. One video featured a Nepali doctor explaining, at high altitude, the body experiences hypoxia, less oxygen per breath. This forces mitochondrial efficiency. The metabolism shifts toward fat oxidation. Leptin rises, ghrelin drops. The body becomes a fat-burning system without conscious effort. Another showed daily life in a Sherpa village, children walking an hour to school, elders carrying firewood up steep paths, porters moving loads for hours without stopping. "We don't think of it as exercise," one porter explained through a translator. "It's just life. We walk because we need to go somewhere. We carry because something needs to be moved." Sarah thought about her own movement patterns. Car to office parking lot, elevator to the 3rd floor, desk chair for 8 hours, elevator back down, car home, couch. Her Fitbit recorded it dutifully, 200 steps yesterday, 2,800 the day before. On Thursday, she made her first change. Small, almost embarrassingly small. She filled the copper bowl with oatmeal, just oatmeal, nothing else, and sat at her kitchen table to eat it. No phone, no laptop. Just the bowl, a spoon, and the morning light coming through the window she'd opened for the first time in months. The portion looked tiny. Her usual breakfast was a protein shake, a granola bar, and coffee with creamer. This was just a bowl of oats, maybe a cup total. She ate slowly, feeling the texture, tasting the grain. It took her 12 minutes. She was still hungry when she finished. Her hand reached for the granola bag, but then she waited. Sat still, breathed. 10 minutes later, the hunger was gone. Not satisfied exactly, but calm, steady. Her co-worker James noticed something the next day. "You okay?" he asked, leaning against her cubicle wall with his 3rd coffee of the morning. "You seem, I don't know, quiet." Sarah looked up from her screen. "I'm fine, just trying something new." "New diet?" James grinned. "What is it this time? Paleo? Carnivore? That weird cabbage soup thing?" "Not a diet," Sarah said carefully. "Just eating differently." James shrugged. "Good luck. I tried that stuff last year, lost 15 pounds in a month, gained 20 back in 2. You know what works? Discipline. Just eat less, move more, stop making excuses." Sarah didn't argue. She'd said the same thing to herself 1,000 times. That weekend, she tried the 2nd habit, cold exposure. The Sherpa homes she'd seen in the videos were unheated. People woke to freezing air, dressed in layers, moved through cold until their bodies generated heat. The research said it activated brown fat, increased calorie burn, improved metabolic flexibility. Sarah couldn't replicate Himalayan cold, but she could try something. She turned the heat down in her apartment from 72 degrees to 62 degrees. She opened her bedroom window at night, letting the November air flow in. She took her morning shower and at the end turned the water to cold for 30 seconds. The first morning she gasped, her body fighting the shock. By the 3rd morning she noticed something. She felt more awake, more alert. The foggy exhaustion that usually lasted until her 2nd coffee was lighter. The copper bowl became her anchor. Every morning she filled it with something simple: oats, rice, a small portion of eggs. She ate slowly, deliberately, using the bowl as her portion guide. No measuring cups, no calorie app, just the bowl and her attention. Her friend Rachel called on Sunday. "Want to grab brunch?" Rachel asked. "And there's that new place with bottomless mimosas." Sarah hesitated. "I'm trying to eat at home more, routine thing." "Since when do you care about routine?" Rachel laughed. "Come on, live a little." "I am living," Sarah said quietly. "I'm just trying to live differently." After she hung up, she felt the familiar pull. Guilt for saying no, fear of being seen as weird, the voice that said she was being too rigid, too serious, too much. But she also felt something else. A small, fragile sense of alignment, like her body was whispering, "Yes, this, keep going," in a language she was just learning to hear. She didn't know yet how deep this would go. She didn't know that these small, strange habits would unravel everything she believed about health, discipline, and what it meant to take care of a body that had been screaming for attention in a language she'd never been taught to understand. But she knew the copper bowl felt right in her hands. And that was enough for now. 3 weeks in, Sarah's body started talking back. Not dramatically, not the way diet commercials promised. No sudden energy surge, no 10-pound drop, no miraculous transformation. But small things shifted. She woke up one morning and realized she hadn't hit snooze. Her eyes had opened naturally 5 minutes before the alarm, the early light filtering through the window she now left open every night. The cold air that had felt punishing at first now felt and clarifying. Her jeans fit differently, not loose exactly, but less tight, less angry against her waist. She'd stopped needing the afternoon vending machine run. The steady, simple meals from the copper bowl, always small, always real food, kept her energy more level than the granola bars and protein shakes ever had. But the people around her were starting to notice, and not everyone was supportive. "You're getting weird," James said, watching her eat a small container of rice and vegetables at her desk. "What is that, like bird food?" "It's lunch," Sarah said evenly. "You used to be fun. Now you're all mindful eating, and I go to bed at 9. You're 37, not 70. Sarah set down her chopsticks, another new habit slowing down her eating pace, and looked at him. "I used to be exhausted. I used to feel like my body was working against me. Now I'm trying something different." James snorted. "You're going to quit in a month like everyone does. No offense, but you've tried every diet out there. This Sherpa thing or whatever is just the new gimmick." His words stung because they echoed her own doubts. The voice that said she was fooling herself. That real change required suffering, deprivation, grinding willpower. That what worked for people in the Himalayas couldn't possibly work for her, sitting in a fluorescent-lit office in Seattle. That night, she called Maya. "Tell me I'm not crazy," Sarah said. "Tell me there's actually something to this." Maya's voice came through calm and measured. "I've been here 4 months now, living with a Sherpa family, documenting their routines. Sarah, they don't think about their health the way we do. They don't try to stay lean. Their entire environment, the altitude, the cold, the way they move, the food they eat, the rhythm of their days, it all just supports the outcome. They're not using willpower. They're living in a system that works with their biology, not against it." "But I can't move to Nepal," Sarah said. "You don't have to," Maya replied. "You're already doing it. Small portions, cold exposure, real food, better sleep, purposeful movement. You're redesigning your environment. That's the real secret. It's not about forcing yourself. It's about building a life where the healthy choice is the easy choice." Sarah looked at the copper bowl sitting on her counter, the same bowl a 72-year-old Sherpa woman used every morning before walking up a mountain. "How long did it take," Sarah asked, "for you to see changes when you started living this way?" "Months," Maya said honestly. "Real change is slow, but it's also permanent, because you're not dieting. You're not white-knuckling through a meal plan. You're just living differently." The next morning, Sarah added another habit, walking. Not to the gym, not on a treadmill, just walking, functional, purposeful movement woven into her day. She parked at the far end of the lot. She took the stairs instead of the elevator. She walked to the corner store instead of driving. By the end of the week, her Fitbit showed 8,000 steps. then 10,000, then 12,000. She wasn't exercising. She was just moving through her life the way Sherpa porters move through theirs, because there was somewhere to go, something to carry, a reason to walk. Her body responded. Her sleep deepened. The puffiness in her face started to fade. The tightness in her shoulders eased. At her next doctor's appointment, the nurse took her blood pressure. 118/76, down from 132/84 3 months ago. "Whatever you're doing," the nurse said, "keep doing it." But Sarah's friends were less convinced. Rachel cornered her at a birthday party. "You didn't eat any cake. You left early. You're acting like you're training for something." "I'm not training," Sarah said. "I'm just trying to take care of myself." "By turning into a monk," Rachel's voice had an edge, "you used to be spontaneous. Now everything is routines and rituals. It's kind of obsessive." Sarah felt the familiar shame rising, the fear of being too much, too weird, too rigid. But underneath it, something steadier held. "I used to be spontaneous and exhausted and sick," Sarah said quietly. "I used to ignore every signal my body gave me. Now I'm listening. If that makes me obsessive, okay. But I feel better than I have in 10 years. Rachel softened slightly. "I just miss you." "I'm still here," Sarah said. "I'm just finally here for myself, too." "Would you rather force yourself with willpower or redesign your environment and habits like this character is learning to do? Comment which path makes more sense to you, and share this episode with someone who needs a gentler approach to change. 2 months in, the habits stopped feeling like habits and started feeling like life. Sarah woke naturally around 6 a.m. Her body synced to the sunrise filtering through the window. The cold morning air no longer shocked her. It woke her up gently, naturally. She brewed black tea, filled the copper bowl with sampa she'd ordered online, roasted barley flour mixed with a small spoonful of ghee, and ate slowly while watching the sky lighten. Her apartment looked different now. She'd removed the blackout curtains, letting natural light guide her sleep-wake cycle, the way it did for Sherpa communities living without electricity or screens dictating their rest. She'd cleared clutter from her bedroom, creating the kind of minimal, calm space she'd seen in Nepali homes. No television, no phone charging by the bed, just a room for sleep. Her clothes fit comfortably. She'd lost weight, maybe 15 pounds, she wasn't sure because she'd stopped weighing herself. But more importantly, her body felt different, lighter, more responsive, less inflamed. The blood work her doctor ordered showed it. Fasting glucose down to 92, cholesterol improved, liver enzymes normal. "I don't know what you're doing," Dr. Patel said, reviewing the results, "but your metabolic markers look like a different person." "I'm eating real food in small portions," Sarah explained. "Walking a lot, sleeping better, getting cold exposure, breathing more deliberately." Dr. Patel looked up, interested. Cold exposure. The Sherpa people in Nepal live in unheated homes. Their bodies adapt to generate heat, activate brown fat, improve metabolism. "I can't replicate altitude, but I can work with temperature." Dr. Patel nodded slowly. "It's not standard advice, but the research is there. Keep going." Then came the test. Sarah's company announced a major project deadline. 3 weeks of extended hours, late meetings, high pressure. The kind of crunch that used to mean survival mode. Fast food, energy drinks, 4 hours of sleep, collapsing on weekends. The old Sarah would have abandoned everything extra to focus on work. Health could wait, sleep could wait, the body could wait. But now, sitting at her desk at 8 p.m. with her team still working, Sarah felt a different pull. She packed up her laptop, stood. James looked up, surprised. "We're going to be here until at least 10. You leaving?" "I need to sleep," Sarah said simply. "I'll start early tomorrow." "Must be nice," James muttered, reaching for his 4th coffee. That night, Sarah followed her routine exactly as she had for 2 months. Light dinner from the copper bowl, screens off at 8:30, window open, room cold, lights out by 9:15. She woke at 5:30 a.m., clear-headed and rested. She worked from 6 to 8 a.m. In the quiet morning hours when her mind was sharpest, finishing more in 2 hours than James would finish in 4 exhausted evening hours. The pattern held for 3 weeks. While her co-workers burned out, ordered pizza at midnight, and dragged themselves through foggy days, Sarah maintained her rhythm. Small meals, cold mornings, purposeful walks, deep sleep. Her output was better. Her stress was lower. Her body didn't rebel. On the final day of the project, the team gathered for a celebratory lunch. Sarah brought her own food: rice, vegetables, a small portion in the copper bowl she now carried with her. Rachel, who'd joined the project team, watched her eat. "You're really committed to this." "It's not commitment," Sarah said. "It's just how I eat now. Doesn't it get boring? The same small portions, the same routines." Sarah thought about it. Sherpa porters walk the same mountain paths every day. They eat tsampa from the same bowls. They wake with the same sunrise. It's not boring to them. It's stable, predictable. Their bodies know what to expect, so everything works better. Rachel shook her head. "I couldn't do it. I need variety, spontaneity." Sarah smiled gently. "How's your energy?" Rachel paused. "Honestly, I'm destroyed. I've been running on caffeine and adrenaline for 3 weeks. I feel like I'm going to crash hard." "That's variety," Sarah said. "High stress, low stress, binge, restrict, sleep, no sleep. My body used to live like that too. It was exhausting. And now? Now my body knows what's coming. It trusts the pattern. It works with me instead of against me." That weekend, Sarah hiked a trail she would have avoided 6 months ago. Too steep, too long, too hard. She walked steadily, breathing deeply the way she'd learned from videos of Tibetan monks and Sherpa guides using breath to manage altitude. She carried a small pack, nothing extreme, but enough to feel the functional strength her body had built from daily walking and purposeful movement. At the top, she sat on a rock and pulled out the copper bowl. She'd packed a simple meal: rice, boiled eggs, vegetables. She ate slowly, looking out over the valley, feeling the cold air on her skin, noticing how her body generated warmth naturally now. A younger hiker passed by, glanced at her setup, and laughed. "Fancy lunch?" Sarah smiled. "Traditional." She didn't explain, didn't defend. She just ate, breathed, and felt the quiet satisfaction of a body that finally, after years of fighting, felt like it was on her side. The real shift happened on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Sarah was preparing breakfast, the copper bowl, tsampa, black tea, when she caught her reflection in the kitchen window. Same routine, same bowl, same small portion she'd eaten every morning for 4 months. And suddenly, the thought that had driven her entire adult life vanished. I should be eating less. It wasn't there anymore. The shame, the calculation, the voice that measured every bite against some impossible standard of discipline and deprivation. She ate what was in the bowl. She was satisfied. She moved on with her day. That was it. That was the secret, not the altitude simulation or the cold showers or the specific foods. Not even the walking or the sleep schedule or the breathing techniques. The secret was that she'd stopped fighting her body and started designing an environment where her body could function the way it was meant to. Sherpa people didn't stay lean because they had superhuman willpower. They stayed lean because their entire lives, the cold that activated their metabolism, the altitude that shifted their hunger hormones, the constant movement built into survival, the real food without processed alternatives, the sleep aligned with natural light, the community meals that prevented stress eating, the spiritual practices that regulated their nervous system. All of it created a system where being lean was simply the natural outcome. They weren't resisting temptation. There was no temptation to resist. Sarah sat down with her tea and let the realization wash over her. For 20 years, she'd believed the problem was her lack of discipline. Every failed diet had proven it. Every moment of weakness had confirmed it. She was broken, lazy, unable to control herself, but she wasn't broken. Her environment was broken, an environment of artificial light disrupting her circadian rhythm, sedentary work with no functional movement, processed food engineered to override satiety signals, constant stress with no community buffer, warm, comfortable temperatures that never challenged her metabolism, cultural messages that said suffering was the price of health. She'd been trying to use willpower to fight a system designed to make her sick. The Sherpa way wasn't about willpower at all. It was about changing the system. That afternoon, Sarah met with Dr. Patel for a 6-month follow-up. The numbers were undeniable. 22 pounds lost, blood pressure normal, cholesterol optimal, fasting glucose in the healthy range, inflammatory markers down. "This is remarkable," Dr. Patel said, looking at the chart. "And you're not following any structured diet plan?" "No," Sarah said. "I eat real food in small portions using the same bowl every day. I walk everywhere I can. I keep my apartment cold. I sleep when it's dark. I eat with other people when possible. I stopped trying to control my body with rules and started building a life my body could trust." Dr. Patel leaned back. "You know what I see in this office every day? People trying to force change through sheer will. They fight their biology, fight their environment, fight their own hunger and exhaustion. And they always lose because willpower is finite. But you didn't fight. You redesigned." "I learned it from watching Sherpa communities," Sarah said. "They don't have gyms or diet apps or calorie counters. They just live in a way that supports health naturally. I can't move to Nepal, but I could borrow the principles." "And the copper bowl?" Dr. Patel had noticed it in Sarah's bag. "Portion control without measuring, ritual without obsession. It's what a Sherpa woman uses every morning. Now it's what I use." Dr. Patel smiled. "I'm going to start recommending this approach. Not the specific bowl, but the concept. Environment design over willpower. May I ask you something personal?" Sarah nodded. "Do you ever want to go back to the old way?" Sarah thought about it honestly. "No, because this isn't a diet I'm enduring until I reach some goal. This is just how I live now. My body knows what to expect. My nervous system trusts the pattern. I sleep well, I move naturally, I eat real food, I feel good. Why would I go back to fighting myself?" That night, Sarah video called Maya in Nepal. "I figured it out," Sarah said. Maya, sitting in a small room with mountains visible through the window behind her, smiled. "Tell me." "The secret isn't the habits themselves. It's that the habits remove the need for willpower. You create a life where the body doesn't have to fight, where health is the path of least resistance." Maya nodded slowly. "The woman I'm staying with, Dawa, she's 75. She doesn't think about staying lean. She doesn't think about her metabolism or her hormones. She wakes with the sun, eats from her bowl, walks where she needs to go, sleeps when it's dark. Her body just works, because everything around her supports it working." "That's what I have now," Sarah said. "A body that works with me." "How does it feel?" Sarah looked at the copper bowl on her counter, the open window letting in cold night air, the simple room organized for rest. "It feels like I've been holding my breath for 20 years, Sarah said quietly, and I finally exhaled. 1 year later, Sarah stood in her kitchen at dawn, the copper bowl in her hands, and realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd thought about her weight. Not in the obsessive way, not in the shame spiral way, not in the desperate grasping way that had defined her 30s. She knew her body had changed. Clothes fit differently, her face looked different in photos, her annual checkup had shown metrics that made Dr. Patel nod with satisfaction, but the number itself didn't matter anymore. What mattered was how she felt, rested, strong, clear-headed, alive. The habits that had felt strange and difficult a year ago were now just her life. She woke with natural light. She ate from the copper bowl, small portions, real food, always sitting down, always without screens. She walked everywhere, to the store, to meetings when possible, upstairs, through parks. She kept her apartment cold. She slept when it was dark. She breathed deliberately when stress rose. Her body had stopped screaming and started humming. James had quit 3 months ago, burned out and exhausted, taking a lower-paying job with better hours. Before he left, he'd stopped by her desk. "You were right," he'd said quietly. "The grind doesn't work. I destroyed myself trying to prove I could power through everything. You figured out something I didn't." "It's not too late," Sarah had told him. "You can start now." Rachel had started asking questions, real questions, not skeptical ones. "How did you do it?" she'd asked over coffee. "And don't say discipline, because I know that's not the answer." Sarah had shown her the copper bowl, explained the concept. Small, consistent portions eaten with attention, cold exposure to activate metabolism, natural light to regulate sleep, movement woven into daily life instead of forced exercise sessions, real food instead of processed alternatives. "It sounds too simple," Rachel had said. "It is simple," Sarah replied. "But simple isn't easy at first. It requires completely changing how you think about health, not as something you achieve through suffering, but as something you build through environment and rhythm." Rachel had started small, one habit at a time, the way Sarah had. Last week she'd texted, "Sleeping with my window open. It's freezing and I love it." Maya had returned from Nepal 2 months ago. They met for lunch, and Maya had stared at Sarah for a long moment before speaking. "You look like a different person," Maya said. "Not just thinner, calmer, more present." "I feel like a different person," Sarah admitted. "Or maybe I feel like myself for the first time in 20 years. "Dawa would be proud," Maya said, referring to the Sherpa woman whose daily routine with the copper bowl had inspired everything. She always said the bowl wasn't about restriction, it was about respect, respecting the food, the body, the rhythm of life. Sarah looked down at her own bowl, sitting on the table between them. "I understand that now." That evening, Sarah prepared dinner in the same copper bowl she'd used for 365 days. Rice, vegetables, a small portion of fish. She ate slowly, tasting everything, chewing thoroughly, aware of her body's signals. When she finished, she washed the bowl carefully, dried it, and set it on the counter for the next morning. Outside, the sun was setting. The air was getting cold. She opened the window wider, welcoming the temperature shift that would activate her metabolism overnight, the same way it did for Sherpa people sleeping in unheated homes at 12,000 feet. She thought about the person she'd been a year ago, exhausted, ashamed, fighting her own body with rules and restrictions that never worked. She thought about all the years she'd believed the problem was her weakness, her lack of discipline, her failure to be good enough. She'd been wrong. The problem had never been her. The problem had been a life designed to make health impossible. A life of artificial light, sedentary work, processed food, chronic stress, and the constant cultural message that suffering was the price of transformation. The Sherpa people hadn't taught her to suffer more. They taught her to design better, to build an environment where her body could rest, move, eat, and breathe the way it was meant to stop fighting biology and start working with it, to replace willpower with rhythm, restriction with respect, shame with simple, consistent habits. She looked at the copper bowl one more time. Such a small thing, such an ordinary object, and yet it had changed everything. Not because it was magic, but because it represented a truth she'd finally learned. Real transformation doesn't come from forcing yourself to be different. It comes from building a life where being healthy is simply the natural, easy, inevitable outcome of how you live. She turned off the lights, walked to her bedroom, and lay down on the firm mattress she'd bought to replace the too soft one that had hurt her back for years. The cold air flowed through the open window. Her breathing slowed, her body relaxed, and as she drifted towards sleep, she felt what she'd been searching for her entire adult life: peace with her own body, trust in her own rhythm, freedom from the endless, exhausting war. Tomorrow she would wake with the sun. She would fill the copper bowl. She would eat slowly, walk purposefully, breathe deeply, and live in a body that finally felt like home. Not because she'd conquered herself, but because she'd stopped fighting and started listening. If this story reminded you that real transformation comes from small habits repeated over time, not from overnight fixes, subscribe to the channel, tell us which country you watch from, and invite someone to start this journey with you in the next story.